Hello everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now, let's go. I am 28 years old. My wife is 3 years younger than me. We have a son who is 3 years old. We dated for 3 years before our wedding. Everything was just wonderful, which is typical for starting a relationship. All people look through rose-colored glasses. The ideality of his second half is off the scale. We were going to get married because my wife was already pregnant. We lived with my parents. The attitude began to move into a calm channel. I started spending less time with my wife. I worked very hard. I've been living at this pace of life for 3 years. I wanted to move into my own house. And finally, I was able to save up for a small house. Housewarming, all first renovation. In general, all the joys of life. When we bought our first house, the child went to school. My wife started working. My wife began to grow rapidly on the career ladder. Eventually, she started earning more than me. She spent most of the money on herself, clothes, beauty salons, and so on. One day, I didn't wash the dishes at home. My wife burst into tears and said she was tired and she stopped loving me. I began to convince my wife that we should support each other. We need to find a common language. Let's come to a compromise, I said. We even made an appointment with a psychologist. The relationship seems to have started to improve. The quiet life lasted 6 months. At first, I tried my best. I worked a lot and helped my wife around the house. But, as they say, a boring life has come. My wife began to disappear often with her friends in clubs and cafes. At that time, I was sitting at home with a child, or worked the night shift. I trusted my wife 100. Before that, I went to clubs with her. She immediately rejected guys. Usually, she would immediately say that I have a young man. And with that, all questions were closed. My wife's friends are all like a selection. Who is divorced, who just doesn't have a relationship. That's why I thought my wife was just going to relax. And not for the purpose of making a new acquaintance. Every time she came home, my wife told me how wonderful their evening was. When men tried to get to know her better, how quickly she pushed them away. This year, we flew to Thailand for a vacation. We flew alone and left the baby to my parents. Maybe that's why our feelings sparkled with new colors. Everything was the same as at the very beginning of the relationship. When we got home, everything was fine in our relationship. There were minor conflicts. I finally changed my place of work. I started earning more. We bought my wife a car to make it easier for her to get to work. The wife wanted another child, but I wasn't ready. The year flew by unnoticed. The wife began to return home late. She no longer did any housework. She even stopped feeding our son. It's come to this, that even my wife's friends began to say that the child should not starve. And now this day has come. My wife came home late after work, and she said we should break up, that she's had a new boyfriend for 2 months now. She's tired of me and our relationship, that I wasn't paying attention to my wife, that she hasn't loved me for a long time. The most important reason, why was she still with me? This is our baby. I was terrified trying to explain this to my wife, that I love her very much and will be fine. Let her not jump to conclusions. Our son will have psychological problems. But my wife didn't care. She said she was tired of pretending. We have already had attempts to start from the beginning, but without success. I tried to find out what this decision is related to. My wife told me that she met a man in a cafe. She had even had sex with him before. To say that I was depressed, there's nothing to say. Like crazy, I started taking care of my wife for a while. Every day, flowers, gifts, attention. All thoughts were about how to get his wife back, to get our relationship back on track. I tried to influence through friends and parents, but it didn't help. My wife's phone accidentally fell into my hands. I read the correspondence with this guy. Strong love in one word. They can't live without each other. They really miss each other and so on. My efforts were unsuccessful. My wife said she was moving in with a new man. We talked for a long time about how to be with our child. We decided that the child would stay with me. On weekends, the wife will come and spend time with the child. As time passed, I began to slowly come to my senses. It came to an understanding that a broken vase cannot be glued back together. I pulled myself together and began to adapt to the new reality. I started going to the gym. I stopped wearing an engagement ring. All shared photos have been deleted. I came home like a squeezed lemon. I finally started sleeping well. After 3 weeks, I called my wife and said that the wife can pack the child's things and introduce him to a new man. I said I had to file for divorce, and for my wife to give me back the keys to the house. She was very surprised, and she asked me, "Why am I saying this so calmly?" My answer was this: I realized I couldn't keep you. I don't want to do this anymore. I am ready to provide for my son. The property must be divided. In fact, the thought that I want my wife back. Sometimes they visited my head, but I understood everything perfectly. What if the woman cheated? Then you won't be happy with her anymore. Yes, and if she comes back, I will finally lose my wife's respect, and the relationship will become very painful and unequal. As a result, another week has passed. It even made me feel a little better. The next 6 months, there were court proceedings. We shared our property. I finally came to my senses. I decided that I had nothing more to do with this woman, except for my son, of course. But I've learned to separate him from my wife. My personal life began to improve. Once I had dinner in a cafe, I met a pretty girl. We started dating. After 2 months, we started living together. 6 months later, my new wife gave birth to my son again. I was even scared. I started to think it was deja vu. But no, God forbid, we're all right. So guys, if your wife cheated on you, this is not the end of life. In some cases, it's even the beginning of a new life. The best revenge on an ex-wife. It's easy to become the happiest in a new relationship. And in general in life, the ex-wife just can't live with it. And so it happened. The new man left my ex-wife. She was trying to establish a relationship with me. But I told her that this betrayal could not be forgiven. And I'm never going back to her. Friends, never forgive cheating on your wife. What do you think about my story? Write your comment. Let's move on to the advice of the author of the channel. Channel Author's Tips. Dear friend, after reading your story, I must say right away that I am very happy for you. And I wish everyone not to experience this instance, or if you are in such a situation, so that everything ends just as happily. But I want to say a few words. From the outside, I understand a little in the psychology of relationships. Friends of someone who is abandoned by his wife or girlfriend. If it's not your fault, in no case, do not try to apologize to her. In no case, do not say that you love your wife or girlfriend. In no case, do not adjust to your wife or girlfriend. Why do you ask? Yes, my life experience. And you can see this for yourself in all the stories. Women begin to regret their actions after communication comes to naught. I will briefly try to explain this to you. I'll give you an example. A guy and a girl quarreled at his house. The girl began to pack her things, and she said she was leaving. At this point, the guy starts to stop his girlfriend. He says he loves the girl. He says that he will change for the better, and so on. The guy thinks that it's worth changing the situation, and the girl will stay or make peace with him. But no, he's making a very big mistake. There is such a thing as a balance of importance in a relationship. When a guy resorts to such actions, his importance decreases. The girl feels it, and the guy loses respect. But if the guy hadn't stopped the girl, she thought about it. Why won't this guy stop me? Why doesn't he do it? The girl leaves and thinks about it. After 15 minutes, she writes to the guy, "Will you take me, or should I take the subway? In no case, can you answer the girl?" It is necessary to ignore the girl, because if the guy answers, the importance of this guy is declining again. In this case, the girl will say, "Don't take me with you, I'll go alone." If the guy doesn't answer her, in another 20 minutes, she would call him in tears. In this situation, the guy tried to stop his wife. His importance was declining. It was good when he began to react calmly and communicate less with her. She started thinking about him, and his importance of maintaining balance began to grow. A person has a peculiarity. Our memory eventually erases the bad memories, and only the good ones remain. In this case, the wife plunged into a new daily life with her new lover. Sooner or later, they started scandals and quarrels. Just a month later, she began to feel nostalgic. And And then her memory began to work, remembering all the good moments associated with the guy she left. Time passes, the girl begins to write, call. But at these moments, it is also necessary not to make mistakes, because the girl throws like bait. If you eat the bait, the significance will decrease again. But eventually, there comes a time when you pick up the phone. The girl begins to ask for forgiveness. In that case, if you want the girl back, you need to call a girl to your house. By no means in a cafe and not talking on the phone. Why? And again, you have a question. Because when the importance of a girl is lower than that of a guy, the girl becomes available. After that, you have to have sex with her. You understand that guys suffer because of unavailable girls. You say, come to me. I'm ready to listen to you. The girl should apologize. This is mandatory. The moment she apologizes, you should not immediately rush into the arms of a girl. But don't be rude. You need to praise the girl, to say that the girl is well done, that she decided to apologize. This is equivalent to giving a hungry kitten a piece of meat. That way you'll let her know about it next time. It will be easier for her to apologize to you. Well, a new relationship. You have to build a new foundation. Follow the new principles and don't make mistakes. In fact, I gave you an example literally and briefly. There's probably 5 of the information, and many will have a lot of questions and disputes. But if you're interested, I'm ready to make a video on this topic separately. Write about it in the comments. I can tell you in more detail how you can get your ex-wife or girlfriend back. I think that's it. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.